The compound effect through marginal gains. Why do we seek instant gratification? Patience is more of a skill to be learned and mastered than some inherited or innate phenomena. We humans are curious and impatient by our very birth, which does prove effective in certain ways, like when it comes learning new things, knowing about the world around us, and collecting information enough to help us ensure our survival. Our patience is tested in its true sense, especially when we put our time, money, efforts, and energy in something. It is because we then get more and more curious about experiencing the results for which we invest through any of those factors. This natural tendency leads us from curiosity to impatience, thus impelling us to seek instant gratification. This human nature has further been intensified since the emergence of science and technology. The rapid growth of various means and mediums has paced up the flow of life to such an extent that taking time is considered some odd now. So, seeking instant gratification, which was triggered by human nature alone at the first place, is now added by changing conditions too. To maintain the pace of life in the present era requires us to develop likewise mind patterns. In this way, by every passing day we are getting more impatient than we ever were. For example, the journey which took us weeks in the past is now covered in few hours, yet we are bothered by a delay of a comparatively trivial amount of time. It is due to this very tendency of growing impatience that does not let us even consider the long-term goals, leave their implication aside. Even the reason behind a great number of people's failure to successfully follow their resolutions lies in this very fact. We cannot blame our human fellows for that, neither for having it in their nature, nor for developing it to survive as demanded by the conditions. What we really need to understand and ensure is the other side. That is, seeking instant gratification may cost you more than what you can afford most of the times. To avoid falling prey to such experience, it is also necessary to develop patience through practices which bring your belief back in its effectiveness. The marginal gains approach leading to compound effect is one such way of not only ensuring your belief in patience but also stopping to seek instant gratification on some reasonable basis. Introduction to the concept of marginal gains. Marginal gains can simply be defined as the consistent addition of unnoticeable amount in any aspect of life for a time duration long enough to have a collected effect out of them. This regular investment in any form starts showing its impact with the passage of time. In the beginning, the occurring change may be so trivial that you fail to feel it even with your senses and conscious effort. What you need to do to carry it on is to believe in the approach and its effectiveness to work wonders for you later. Patience and consistency are the core factors for implementing marginal gains in its real sense. For example, a giant tree does not get to that state overnight, but when it reaches to that height and spreads as much as it does, its existence cannot be denied. It may further be hard to correlate it to a small seed from when it grows to such extent. What the tree really takes to get that stage is patience and consistency in their true sense. No matter how unnoticeably its growth might have been when analyzed on the daily basis, the slightest regular increment without failing a day leads it to how it stands today. Moreover, it is far more than how it appears to the eye, as its roots are also deeply grounded, which further ensure its strength and stability. Marginal gains, like millions of trees around you, can be drawn with regard to any of the life-related aspects, such as health, finance, relationships, and so on. Applying the technique not only ensures the growth in respective factor of your life but also sets you free from any security reservations in that too. Key drivers of compound effect. Our life undoubtedly has a great impact of what we are exposed to. It is because this exposure has a deep influence not only on the choices we make but also on the results drawn. Being completely accountable for where we are led, We must identify the triggers which are supposed to take us in a specific direction. It is these influences actually by which even our behavior and habits are affected enough to drive our lives in a certain way. These influences, especially when we are regularly exposed to them, affect our lives greatly. Every time we encounter them via their respective sources, they further strengthen our priors, leaving even more of the impact on our thoughts and activities carried on the basis of them. Compound effect itself has them as one of its essential factors, as without having any influence no choices, habits, or behaviors can survive in the longer run. Our life is influenced by external factors including our surroundings and whatever we receive through different mediums. Basically, the sources of these influences can be put into three categories, which are input, association, and environment. Denying the subtle yet unnoticeable control over our lives will simply take us to experience unexpected and undesired consequences. On the contrary, if we aware ourselves of them along their nature of work and severity of impact, we can make them work in our favor. What we need in the first place concerning this effort is to consciously understand and acknowledge those sources by which they are conveyed. It is only then that we will be able to filter them before letting ourselves to be affected by them. In this way, we can not only avoid the bad or negative influences having the potentiality to harm us in different ways, but also ensure the good or positive influences to get the best out of them. Here are the three mediums of the influences defined in the simplest comprehensive terms. Number 1. Input. It includes everything fed to your mind through any of various different mediums. Number 2. Association. It refers to the people you generally spend your time with on the regular basis. Number 3. Environment. It indicates everything in your surroundings having the similar sort of effect. Acceleration. Fulfilling the regular requirements on your plans does have its due positive effect, yet adding more to them further leads to the compound effect. For example, running 2 miles on daily basis will definitely yield you results, but if you add yet another 500 meters on weekly intervals, you will have those outcomes multiplied several times. This indicates that doing something after reaching your max compounds the results. It is the reflection of great athlete Muhammad Ali's words that he started counted after he felt the pain, that was after reaching of his maximum. That is how you make your efforts count in their true sense. This also encourages you to be self-competitor. You always look ahead to ensure enhancing your previous performance. The moment you equal your previous performance is the time you start making the difference that counts being multiplied. Acceleration is added on every time you beat your peak performance. You are not supposed to overexhaust yourself to the extent that affects your further performances. It is a condition to maintain the regularity in the first place before acceleration is even thought of in this context. However, keeping the consistency ensured, you can decide the extent and severity of the increments. The effects of acceleration are inevitable in the compound effect provided you stretch your potentials to their affordable extent. Yet another way to accelerate in this regard is to prove people wrong by exceeding beyond their expectations about your potentiality. Prove yourself a step ahead than what people consider you to be capable of doing. This will not only encourage you to accelerate but also add to your confidence level while proving helpful to upgrade your competencies and potentialities. Moreover, it sets you free from staying stuck in your soft corner for long. The challenges you take on regular basis not add to your productivity but also help you explore more and more of your potential being. Let us point out what sort of attitude and techniques can potentially help you stay consistent with multiplying your results through acceleration in the compound effect context. The action steps suggested below ensure your acceleration in the progress on your performance. Number 1. Identify your potential limits so that you can push further for the more of growth once you reached there. Number 2. Find the areas of life you wish to grow. These can be related to relations, health, finance, career, or any other. Number 3. Having identified your potentials to be expanded and areas to grow in, what you can further attempt at is to go beyond what the world expects from you. Number 4. Finally, you can do something in any of the selected areas that differentiates you from the rest of others. You have to go beyond the norms and expectations to create your own milestones. Choices. We often hear people say that life is a journey. It indeed is, but the only person who determines the destiny of the whole journey is you. It is because you are capable of choosing your own path regardless of how circumstances turn out to be. Taking this argument into perspective, it is a clear indication that you are the only person responsible for whatever choices you have been making up to this point in your life. Of course, the only exception is when you were still incapable of taking charge of your life and your parents were responsible for doing everything for you. Your transition to adulthood starts when you realize that you are solely responsible for the way you choose to live your life, including all the decisions you make in the process. Unfortunately, most of us spend most of our time blaming others for our failures. We have everyone to blame for our pains and sufferings but ourselves. If you closely look at it, we end up making the wrong choices because we are not aware of our actions. We remain aloof of the consequences and as a result, end up paying a heavy price. Instead of taking responsibility for our failures, we start playing the blame game. We do not even take a moment to analyze why and how things are not going our way. That is why we need to stop and think hard about the choices we have been making before we start blaming others. If you are someone who feels like a victim and believe that others are responsible for who you are at present, this blog will help you change your mindset in this regard. All you need to achieve that is to take some positive steps in the right direction, and here they are. Number 1, first of all, increase your self-awareness by becoming conscious of the choices you make at every step in your life. Number 2, once you become aware of how the choices you make can impact your life, you start taking responsibility for them even if you end up as a failure. Number 3, once you realize that all the matters of your life are solely your responsibility, you can clean the slate and start afresh by cultivating the seed of good habits on the basis of good choices. Momentum. Your conscious choices help you develop good habits around your main objective or goal you are looking to achieve in the future. Once you have taken complete responsibility for your life, you are ready to inch closer to your destiny. However, you still have not gained the required momentum to make it easier for yourself to achieve your goal. At this point, you must be wondering what role momentum plays in your eventual success. Before going any further, you must realize that gaining momentum is not as easy as you may have perceived. It takes a lot of effort on your part to gain it, yet, it is extremely crucial to help you achieve your objective. Look around you and you will find one thing in common among all those people who have achieved a lot in their life, be it wealth, fame or high academic credentials. It is the momentum. This blog will help you understand what momentum is, why it is so important for anyone who wants to achieve success, and how to build it. Here are some of the suggested steps to help you keep momentum regardless of the conditions so as to ensure drawing compound effect on your efforts. Number 1. Taking an initiative is not all to build momentum. You are further required to consolidate your first step with consistency through empowering your actions on the basis of sustainable habits. Number 2, during the initial phases, you cannot afford to become complacent because you still need the firepower to keep pushing hard. Number 3, once you know what your goal is, figure out all the essentials that can help you move towards it. That's possible only when you establish healthy routines, promote positive habits, and ensure consistency. Habits. We humans, being the creatures of habits, all our actions are generated as per the behavioral patterns we develop in our minds. These patterns form our respective behaviors to be triggered in the circumstances they are set for. That is how we lead our lives without putting much of the conscious efforts. Otherwise, it would have been quite impossible for our minds to perform all that they do subconsciously. That clearly indicates how great impact habits have on your lives. Compound effect, when analyzed, can be found to have its roots connected to habit formation. Or we can say that habit is one of the essential elements required to ensure compound effect on your actions. What really connects the two together is the consistency factor. Habit itself is the name of consistent behavior with regards to some specific action, while compound effect has it, consistency, as a condition for its effectiveness. What compound effect really demands are small increments on the regular basis, somewhat similar to what is required for habit formation. In other words, habit is the processing of the action which leads to compound effect. All the habits may not have a compound effect, but every time you need to draw compound effect you will daily need to follow the habit formation process. For example, some of the actions are result-oriented while others may not lead to any results. Of those leading to results, you can succeed or suffer depending on the nature of actions you take to practice respectively. A habit is this very factor which helps us carry much of our daily routine even when we are not quite aware of it. Habits drive us subconsciously performing a great part of our daily activities. What further needs to be mentioned here is that habits not only make things easier for us but also imply ripple effect on our activities. That is to say, they help us produce greater outcomes than we can get otherwise. Ensuring even the marginal amount of exercise on the regular basis will serve the cause better than anything else on the face of the earth. This makes it obvious that habit has a great role in drawing compound effect on your actions. Marginal gains in cycling. Athletes of all genres are always in search of that X factor that would give them an edge over their opponents and competitors. Keeping it on the legal track, every athlete is on the lookout for some element or factor that would help him or her to excel and win the competition, set a record and bring the medal home. Be it Olympics or the Commonwealth Games, any athletic game demonstrates how important it is for the athletes to have their names written in history and the glory of winning the title. To enhance the athletic psychology, it is important that the athletes should envision realistic goals. Goals should be planned in such a way that they wouldn't overwhelm the achievers. In fact, it is essential to have small incremental goals that are achievable in short term. Once you are clear about your goals and how to achieve them, you can concentrate on completing them. There are few sports that test the mettle of the athlete like the way cycling does, especially when formula of its winning depends on the finest of the margins. Speed is the name of the game in life today. It is true in every sports including cycling. Even the everyday cycling requires speed and a competitive edge between cycling buddies. Everyone craves to be faster and stronger, thus, the principle of marginal gains is also applicable in everyday cycling. All you must ensure, apart from the technicalities, is that you increase your cycling distance even by as small a margin as mere tenth of a kilometer every day while trying to reach the extended distance in the same time duration. That is how you can not only build the stamina for longer rounds but also pace up with regard to reach the target. Marginal gains in weight loss. Marginal gains can be powerful since it works in virtually every part of our lives. It works equally in the weight loss as it does in the case of weight gain. The more effort you put into things, the more the results will compound over time. There is a compounding effect that occurs with many situations that have such subtle short-term effects, that often we do not feel them occurring. But over time they can add up to either serious problems or significant benefits. Compounding works in the gym when you exercise a certain muscle and achieve some gains. Then the next week you go to the gym, exercise the same muscle, and achieve some more gains on top of the gains that you have already achieved. Soon you get the compounding effect working over time for you, and your progress towards your fitness goals accelerates. Also, with exercise, there is a compounding effect in that, as you exercise, you are not only burning calories from the exercise but you are increasing your metabolism, which makes your body more efficient, thus making it burn more calories even while you are not exercising. The end result of this is that your body responds more and more aggressively to your exercise routine as time progresses. With weight loss, you get similar compounding effect. As you change your diet, increase your number of meals per day, drink additional water, you increase your metabolism, reduce the total number of calories you ingest respectively. What you are suggested is to stay stuck to your new diet and routine especially meant for the purpose without getting concerned about the unnoticeable effects it has on you. It will not take you much longer to experience weight loss to the extent you cannot ensure by any other ways so effectively. Getting rid of bad habit through marginal gains. Habits influence our daily lives beyond what we can even imagine. Our lives are driven by the habit patterns we form in our mind with consistent following up of certain activities. This leaves an enormous impact on how we live and where we are led, as habits affect even our thoughts and behavior. On this account, it can further be drawn that our destiny is determined by the sort of habits we develop. It is because each habit being consistently practiced takes us, though quite unnoticeably, to some consequence. Therefore, good habits and bad habits have their respective results for sure in the longer run of life. In other words, habits simply construct us to what we become in our lives. There is no room for the doubt in the fact that good habits can earn you happiness in many ways, including your health, relations, financial stability, and success. Similarly, the bad habits having the opposite, and arguably deeper impact, can cost you far most than all that. Habits being based on certain specific factors can only be effectively dealt with in the likewise manner. What makes marginal gains to be so reliable in the habit context is its inevitable association with the nature and formation of the habits. Habits themselves are the results of marginal gains regardless of whether the person developing ones is even aware of the term to its slightest form. However, marginal gains technique works as a complete package, offering a total remedy by dealing with all the aspects of the habit which matter. It does not just address the essential factors and suggest steps to be taken. Marginal gains being an approach in itself rather works beyond theoretical boundaries and brings each area under practical implementation. That is the reason for its ensured effectiveness, as it enforces what really matters. Here are some steps suggested to be taken while ensuring the essential factors like patience, determination, consistency, and marginal cutoffs. Number 1. Ensure identifying your individual context with regard to respective habit to the best of your potent. Number 2. Having identified and analyzed every potential aspect of your target habit, you further have to trace its cues and triggers as well as the reward it provides you every time you repeat it. Number 3. Try to eliminate those cues from your context while deal with the time and place factor with relation to it by either avoiding encountering them or engaging yourself in some more powerful activity. Number 4. Stay persistent and resilient in your approach, as you are sure to encounter the thoughts of giving up, partially because the change does not appear prominent and partially because of being impelled by mind patterns. Number 5. The outcomes may not appear for long enough, but once they do, you will find your struggle to be quite trivial before the consequences you draw. Quit smoking. Smoking, like any other habit, is developed on the regular practice of the activity for a certain time period. It is at the completion of this time period that the addiction subconsciously impels the person for its fulfillment. That is how the addictive habit further gets its strength while decreasing the chances of its being quit. Along with that, the control it has on an individual's mind affects the confidence to cop the habit. That is the very reason many of the smokers give up before even giving it a thought to quit smoking. If you really intend to quit smoking, you must ensure having sharpened the tools required for pulling it off its roots. What you have to equip yourself with in this regard may include patience along with ability to stay consistent. These are the same elements required for ensuring marginal gains and compound effect. Applying this natural technique, you can ensure getting rid of what may otherwise lie in the categories of impossibilities. The effectiveness of the process can only be experienced when you give it a try, being patient enough to carry it to the finish line by following what it really takes to quit. Number 1. Acknowledge your target. Number 2. Collect enough details. Number 3. Be familiar with your individual context. Number 4. Ensure your determination. Number 5. Stay patient and resilient. Number 6. Trace and eliminate the trigger to your smoking habit. Number 7. Mark a deadline for quitting it. Number 8. Announce it to stay committed and accountable. Number 9. Engage yourself in positive activities. Number 10. Keep a confidant to share it with. Number 11. Reduce it by mere 1 cigarette in every 2 days. Number 12. Attempt it at some stress-free time. What we learned. What was the core message that we got from this book? Our approach of seeking instant gratification, based on whatever reasons, proves to be the greatest hurdle in our way to ensure marginal gains. Marginal gains virtually work in every area of life, and being based on universal principles guarantee your success provided you are patient enough to stay consistent regardless of conditions. Our thoughts, actions, and behavior are, though unnoticeably, driven by the influence we get in the form of input, associations, and environment. Fulfilling the regular requirements of your plans undoubtedly has due positive effect, yet adding more to accelerate them further ensures leading to the compound effect. Our choices are what bring us the outcomes we get, thus, self-accountability is the inevitably essential to success and happiness in less. Taking an initiative is not all to build momentum, you are further required to consolidate your first step with consistency through empowering your actions on the basis of sustainable habits. We humans being the creatures of habits, all our actions are generated as per the behavioral patterns we develop in our minds. Athletes are always in search of that X factor that would give them an edge over their opponents and competitors. Our destiny, good or bad, is determined by the sort of habits we develop. Our brains are not programmed to differentiate between good or bad, they merely follow the patterns carved on them by regular practice of certain activities.